I go contrary to a lot of experts in the world of cybersecurity. It's because they're approaching it from a technological standpoint. If you're an engineer and these layers of authentication have to be implemented, you get it, you understand it, you can implement it. But it's a pain in the butt for the average user.
Welcome to Cult Products, a podcast by Yaya Digital. I'm your host, Phill Keaney-Bolland, and on this show, we sit down with the founders and leaders shaping the next wave of cybersecurity innovation. You'll hear the stories behind how they found their first customers, defined what made them different, and built products that earned a loyal following in one of the toughest markets on earth. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Cult Products podcast. Today, I am joined by Scott Schober, the CEO of Berkeley Varitronics Systems, which I'll be calling BVS to avoid stumbling over Varitronics. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Hey, great to be here with you, Phil.
I hope you don't mind me saying, but you've been in the cybersecurity game for a little while. BVS originally founded in the 70s, I believe.
Yeah, or early 70s. And it is a family business. So we're actually, it's about 54 years old now, roughly. I did not find the company because I was only about 2 years old then. It was founded by my father, so I'm second generation. And a number of years ago, I resumed the helm of president and CEO of the company. We were initially a design company. And then I kind of pivoted the company more toward product-oriented and security products. So kind of adjusted a little bit where our focus was. We originally came out of really the build out in the 1980s of wireless test equipment. So we built the actual test tools that built out the cellular networks as we know it today through all the different, first, second, third, fourth, and now we're into the 5G, fifth generation wireless networks. So we do transmitters and receivers and propagation analysis to find out where's the best spot to put those ugly towers and make our phones work. So we understand a lot of the wireless connectivity issues, but also we understand a lot of the vulnerabilities, how you can use phones wrongfully for cyber criminal purposes, let's say. And that really helped us launch a product line of security tools to help combat against cyber criminals and work with law enforcement.
That is absolutely fascinating. It must have been, it's in your blood, I guess, to go into this. Did you always know you were headed in that direction, taking over the family business, getting into cybersecurity?
And it's a great question. I would say kind of yes, and maybe just a short bio on myself for a little bit of context or backstory. I started working this company in the sixth grade. So I was going through sixth grade, coming out of elementary school. And I remember my father was a self-taught engineer, brilliant, and he still is. He said to me, challenged me, he said, "You want to learn how to fix something?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And he goes, "Well, you have to learn how to solder." So he taught me how to solder and use a basic meter. And he says, "I've got these keypads here." We were selling keypads at the time, the company, for voting, audience research type of things. We did a lot of work for the television networks and what commercials do people like and not like. And he said, "Well, I got a lot of them." And I said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And he goes, "I'll give you $1 for each one that you fix." I said, "Great, I'll learn how to fix them." I didn't realize he had over 600 of them that had to be fixed. So I was like this in sixth grade, learning how to solder, but I went through them and fixed them and learned if the polarity of something was backwards, a diode put in wrong, or an LED or something broken or bad solder joint, and how to test them and use the meter to measure the voltage. And that kind of got me interested. And I said, wow, I really enjoy hardware, electronics, the hands-on type of things. And at a young age, I quickly got involved in robotics. So we took that very serious as kids, and they rewarded us or paid us with all the pizza we could eat and all the video games. So growing up, I have fond memories of we always were allowed 2 arcade games in our basement at any one time because it was so fascinating to me just to learn, just to absorb. It wasn't really the trying to amass and get degrees and things, but it was the challenges and I think the fun of learning things that were different. And I think doing all that from sixth grade till present, just had my hands involved in things. So it worked out well growing up in a family business. And we were small in the beginning, a handful of people. Now we're over 25 people, mostly engineers. And the people around me that I'm surrounded with are far smarter than myself. They've got PhDs and deep experience. And I've learned a lot about putting together good teams, smart people that can think outside the box, that maybe wear multiple hats, really help to create innovation. and come up with ideas and challenge one another. And I think that's a fundamental part that makes at least my job fun. It's very stressful at times. And sometimes I say I wish I was just delivering pizzas for a living, but at other times it is really fun because I don't know what each day the challenge is going to be coming in here. And I'm challenging engineers, I'm challenging myself, and we're just having fun coming up with different ideas. And most of the stuff, as I kind of alluded to, center around security and cybersecurity, where we're trying to think outside the box. How do we counter different types of threats? How do we counter common problems like financial crimes? It's a huge area of research I've been writing about and doing research on, and coming up with different tools and technology. So, for example, ATM skimmers have been a huge problem for well over a decade. So we've developed tools that you could simply insert into an ATM and instantly tell, hey, is there a skimmer here that's about to steal your debit or credit card? We give you a green light, red light. And that's been embraced by law enforcement, by Secret Service, by FBI. And we've sold thousands of units in the past few years that are in the field every single day being used to fight cybercrime, which they estimate is about $2 billion a year in excess just in skimmer fraud, which I never realized how bad the problem was. It's because most people don't know about it. It's scary.
And it feels like things are moving really faster than ever. It feels like, the challenges are exploding. The messages that we're being hit with all the time is, this is worse than it's ever been. It's more complex. There's new threats emerging every 30 seconds and new products that you need to buy and all of those kinds of things. As somebody who's been, through probably multiple cycles of internet and cloud and all of those kinds of things, does it really feel like we're in a dramatically different space, or does this just feel like it's kind of par for the course, more of the same?
Well, unfortunately, I'm an optimist by nature, and I always try to stay optimistic about everything in cyber. Unfortunately, when I back to maybe 2010 to where we are today, and in 2010 timeframe, I really started immersing myself more in the world of security. That was our pivot as a company. And I found myself educating a lot of people. So I'm on stage, I'm talking about things, but these are more toward engineers, maybe a little bit of law enforcement, different groups. And I talked a lot about cyber. And the more I started to learn myself, I said, let me share back and educate. So I was speaking on the subject often. And then what happened was I got a target on my back. And back in those days, 2010, 2011, 2013, especially, cyber criminals were really doing well. There was a smaller group around the world. They were targeting people like myself and others that were educating people how to stay safe, because it's messing up their gig. Hey, they're making a lot of money stealing people's credit cards and wire transfer fraud, and the early days of DDoS attacks and account takeovers by getting people's credentials and passwords and login credentials and things like that. And next thing I know, I said, geez, what's happening? And out of the blue, I said, geez, my credit card got compromised. My debit card got compromised personally. And at the same time for my company, I said, this is way too coincidental. 4 cards all at the same time compromised. Strange activity. And then I had my Twitter account back in the day. I was an early Twitter user. That was compromised. Our online store that we set up, we were starting to do commerce. We had repeated DDoS attacks. Now we're not receiving orders. I said, what is going on here? Then one Monday morning, I came in and I had $65,000 stolen out of our checking account. I said, this is not good. This is something serious. Became a federal investigation. Law enforcement's involved. The bank's involved. I'm doing research. I started working with an Israeli company that was doing some searches on the dark web, and they traced it back, some of the activity that I shared with them, to some notorious cyber criminals that were basically trying to send me a message and shut me up. It turned into a mess.
Did you ever find out what it was specifically that had really got their backs up?
Yeah, I think what happened is it's when you start exposing criminals in that dark web and the underground world to their techniques, and you help people to stay safe, it really starts to hurt their business model. And now they have to work harder, and they have to use new scripts and change their game. It's a cat and mouse game back and forth. So the more I did, the more I educated. And honestly, I rolled up my sleeves. I got annoyed. I said, you want to do that? Okay, let's play. I'm going to expose everything I can that I learned. And it wasn't myself alone. I can't say I could take credit for this or that. There were a lot of great research. Brian Krebs is a fellow colleague, Krebs on Security. He publishes a weekly newsletter that educates people, and it's everything from fraud, identity theft, skimmers, you name it. He had a target on his back. I've met him. I've spoken with him, and the likes of Kevin Mitnick. I've spoken on stage with him and met him. He became a friend. He sadly passed away a few years ago, but he was the world's greatest hacker that was reformed and then educated people. He too was targeted. So this story I'm telling you is very common with those that came out of the community of hacking and pirating games as I did, and it became reformed and said, hey, I'm going to do good. I'm a white hat hacker, and I'm going to help people and educate people for good. They become a target. Unfortunately, that kind of comes with the territory. As a result of it, I was actually doing a TV interview at Bloomberg in New York City. I came off. I went and calmed down and said, I'm going to go get a bite to eat and get a drink. And I got a phone call. I think it was the Associated Press. And they said they heard about my story about my company being targeted and hacked. Would I like to go on the record? And I said, no. I said, this is embarrassing. Back in the day, you didn't hear about cyber breaches and compromises. You were ashamed if your company was targeted, especially a company that was expert in wireless as we were and emerging into this new realm of cyber that nobody really knew about back then. And I said, geez, this is embarrassing. How'd you find out? Oh, we can't tell you that, but can you go on the record and confirm some of these things? We knew, boom, boom, boom. And I said, geez, you know what? You already know everything. I said, I'm going to be transparent. I said, I'll agree to it as long as you share it from my perspective. And I'm going to share my mistakes, what I did wrong, so other people don't go down the same path that I go down. And so I went through this and I spilled my guts, and it was a bit embarrassing. But afterwards, I got praise from a lot of business colleagues. They said, thank you for sharing your story. I have a similar experience. I was compromised and I was targeted. And next thing you know, you kind of connect with different individuals in the industry. And then a few people started talking to me, saying, you should document this. I'm like, what are you talking about? Write a book. It's a book. I said, I'm not an author. I can't write. I'm a computer science guy. I'm a geek. I'm not a writer. I'm not polished. I don't have that ability. I was pushed and pushed at the time. I had a dear friend who also was a publicist helping me get on TV and radio and build a brand at the time, which she did an amazing job. She pushed me, and other colleagues pushed me, and business colleagues and my family. And I said, you know what, let me try it. It took me 2 years. Oh, it was painful. Had my brother help me, who is a gifted writer and a co-author for my later books. And he helped edit it and kind of got into my head growing up, and in the games and other things we related, and works for the company also. So the combination of him helping me with my weakness allowed me, after 2 years, get it launched. We did self-publishing, put it out on Amazon, get it in Barnes and Noble, get it into the libraries. And surprisingly, I don't know why I'm surprised, but I guess I'm surprised because I don't look at myself as a writer. It took off. And we got a lot of success. And suddenly people are calling and saying, hey, I heard you were hacked. Hey, I heard you got this book. Hey, I want you to speak. Hey, I want to hire you for this. And it actually led to more business. So kind of we didn't plan it. We didn't think it would happen. You think it's one of those things you give to a couple of friends and neighbors, hey, and a relative, hey, here's my book I wrote, and that's it, and it goes away. Next thing you know, people are asking, well, what's your next book? And I'm like, what's my next book? I just finished book 1. I never want to do this again. And again, pressure, success, you get pulled into the writing, and then suddenly you start having more stories and more things happen and more problems happen, and we're targeted even more. And so I wrote to small business owners. Cybersecurity is everybody's business. That was my second book. The process got smoother. The time to develop and write a book shrunk down from 2 years to 9 months. I said, wow, this is a lot better. I can do this. It's a little more manageable. I started to learn how to write and share personal stories that resonate with me to hopefully my listeners, so they can walk away with a couple tips, a couple points, things to learn from it. And maybe it's explaining or relating to them the importance of, you look at your login credentials, you got your username, your password, how important multi-factor authentication really is, that added layer of security. And then I would relate layers of security to maybe someone trying to rob your house. Everybody could relate to that. You have, alarm stickers and a padlock and a deadbolt and cameras. Those layers of security simply deter a cyber criminal to move on to the next house. Same thing with building layers of security in cybersecurity world, on the internet, on your computer, deter thieves. And they move to the low-hung fruit, the easier target on someone else that's going to be a victim and steal from them.
The entire history of humankind, is how people kind of can relate to concepts, can have an emotional impact on them, can get them hooked, all those kind of things. And then the other, I think, really interesting thing is just how much you were then able to put yourself out there from day one as well. Because, a lot of people, as you said, probably wouldn't write a book about something potentially not just embarrassing, but kind of contrary to what you do as a business, and own it and say, right, I'm going to, I'm the face of this business, I'm the face of this hack. Let me tell you the story. What would you say to, and I do speak to a lot of people who are slightly reticent about putting themselves out there. It's a big step. It can be embarrassing. All your mates are going to see it. All of, your clients and customers are going to see it. Why should somebody do that?
It is a brilliant point. Building on that, when you're transparent, people see that you make mistakes. You're not perfect. You're vulnerable. But it also conveys a sense of, I think, honesty. You're true to yourself. And what that means to me is when a customer talks to me, they talk to my company, my support team, my engineers, they're going to hopefully see that same messaging. They're going to buy something. They're going to invest in something, but they got a company behind it. They've got years of research and design and support, and no company's perfect. Where companies shine is when there are problems. How do you handle it? Do you call them back? You just send a blind email? If you take the time to really be there, get in the trenches with your customer with problems, they notice that. How do they reward you? They come back and give you more business. And I think that's kind of what I learned even with writing a book. You write a book not to make money. You write a book to make a connection. I call it my business card. I was told early on, when you write a book, give it to everybody. Just give it away and don't worry about selling it. Everybody thinks about, if I give a book away, then no one's going to buy it. Nobody wants to buy your book. In that standpoint, you don't want to pressure your friends to go buy your book. Your customer base is probably not your relatives and your friends. They're going to do it because they like you. Maybe you're a nice guy or a nice girl, whatever. But give it to everybody. Why? Because everybody you give a book to, they're your sales force in a sense, indirectly. They're going to tell someone, hey, I got this book from this guy. It's about cybersecurity. Oh, really? Well, we have we just got compromised. Oh, we're a victim of ransomware attack. Who is this guy? What is this book about? What does their company do? That's how business builds, by networking and sharing and being transparent and being open to your problems. So in a backwards way, I think I stepped into a powerful channel that allows you to network, market, and grow a brand. When you grow a brand, and you hear this all the time, you hear all these famous people, brand and innovator, and what are the other terms? Influencer and all these other terms that they make up. I don't know what half of them are. But people tell me, oh, you're an influencer. Oh, you're an innovator. I guess, I don't know. I'm running a cybersecurity company. Whatever you want to brand me as, that's fine. I'll accept it. My goal is to educate. I look at it as I'm an educator first, sharing information, distilling it into ways that people can digest it and understand it to improve their lives, to stay safe. If I could do that, that's my parting words in all my book. I say, stay safe or whatever. So I think you learn how to do that. My background growing up as a kid, I mentioned I was kind of the geek behind the scenes. I couldn't stand in front of a classroom and give a report. I couldn't look people in the eye and speak. I couldn't get up on stage. So I had to learn how to put myself out there as a brand or a face of the company, to write a book. I get hired regularly to get up on stage in front of tens of thousands of people to speak. That, to me, I didn't have that natural ability. I had to learn that over time. I had to build confidence. And writing does that to some extent. Interviews like this, these are great. Podcasts, I think, are excellent forms. I always encourage people, maybe you're not going to be on TV tomorrow or on the radio, but podcasts are a nice stepping stone to insert yourself into a media format that actually gets listeners. When you're driving in a car, people are listening to this perhaps on their phone, or they subscribe to your podcast, and maybe they pick up one or two tips or points. That's valuable. That's imparting and sharing information that maybe is lost in TV with commercials and distractions and things like that. So sometimes thinking out the box and building your brand differently really helps because it feeds your business model back. And I think that that's so intricate. I have numerous times conclusively seen when I speak on stage, when I go on a podcast, when I go on a TV show, when I go on a radio show, when I write books, when I write blogs, when I educate, I see results when people call, when people email, hey, I want to learn more about you, your company, your products. I have something that needs to be designed. Again and again, it's happened. And I stand back and look at it and I say, wow. Traditionally, I used to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on advertising, magazines and mailings and all kinds of things we would do just to kind of solicit interest in our company. I was taught early on when I started writing my book and when I started to build a brand with my publicist, she said, first of all, cancel all your advertising. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, but it's the truth. I did. I blindly listened and I said, I'm going to go in full steam and try this. I'm going to build a brand. And what happened was instead of me chasing business, people chase you. It sounds counterintuitive. It's weird. Instead of me asking to speak at an event, people will call me and say, hey, can I hire you to speak and we'll pay you this much dollars and we'll buy this many books. It's backwards. It's counterintuitive, but it works. And it doesn't happen overnight to your point, because a book is a long and tedious process and learning how to speak and becoming an expert on a subject. I think the most important thing maybe for your listeners, whatever your business is, be the best at it that you can be. Be an expert in your niche, not in the general area. Find your niche, carve it out, and continually educate yourself and share that information generously with your audience. Audiences appreciate that because now they start taking things to practice. Hey, this crazy guy, Scott, got this hacked again book and this book and that book. And he told me I should use multi-factor authentication. And he told me how to avoid a ransomware attack. And he told me how to remember this complicated password and, little things like that. And then they start implementing it. And they say, wow, I feel safer. I don't feel like my identity is going to be compromised. I don't feel like I'm going to have my account taken over. I don't feel like this is going to happen. It empowers them. So part of it is you're building your audience and you're empowering them. And maybe you look at it as you hear all these coaches and people that try to pump you up and teach you how to believe in yourself. I think I had to learn how to believe in myself and the message that I was giving and live by it. Implement those things. If I'm talking about, hey, why is it so important to use a good, solid password manager? It's because nobody remembers stupid passwords. They got to be long and strong. And by the time you explain it all, everyone's like, I'm not going to do that. It's easier just to use one password and use it across multiple logins. And they could use tools and techniques in education to help reinforce that messaging. Where the exceptions to that rule is where the demographic that's very difficult, that's targeted more than anything, I think are seniors. That was my third book, Senior Cyber. I was helping my grandfather at the time. He was in his 90s, my father and mother, who were in their 70s at the time, and they were frustrated with using mobile phones and passwords and computers. And I remember my father one day sitting there, I was trying to help him, and he goes, what is all this? He goes, I'm an engineer. And he goes, this is stupid. He goes, nobody's going to do this. I says, you're right. And that's part of the fundamental problem. Cyber criminals know we don't have the patience to sit there and write some fakakta password and remember it. And then we're told we're changing it. People are told, change your password every 90 days. That's another myth I don't agree with, and I argued against many people. If my password is long and strong and secure, and it's worked for 10 years, why should I change it every 90 days? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Yet people are telling you, I'll change your password every 90 days. It's more secure. It's actually proven that it's more insecure. Why? 90 days, now you type a new password. Now you write it down somewhere. You put it in your password manager, on your sticky note, in your magic book, whatever. Every time you write down a new password and you get rid of your old password, there's a chance someone else sees it. Someone else shoulder surfs. Someone else copies your sticky note. Someone takes a picture, whatever. You're just increasing the likelihood that you'll forget it or someone else compromises it, or it's in transit somewhere on the internet because you emailed it to yourself or wherever. So people don't realize we're the problem. We're creating an insecure world by surrounding ourselves by these insecure passwords that we don't know how to properly manage. I've got a little more than 200 passwords I manage. That's a lot of passwords. That's pathetic. But I'm not alone. A lot of people probably have somewhere in that neighborhood of 50 to 100 passwords on average. That's a lot to manage. It becomes almost your part-time job managing your security. I don't like that, and nobody does. And then I hate to add this in, but this is a reality check here for listeners. Quantum computing is here and it's emerging. Quantum computing, with its speed and advanced parallel processing, basically undoes everything that we know today as secure. And saying it in simple layman's terms, our AES 256-bit gold standard encryption that the US DoD uses and everybody else around the world can be compromised like that with quantum computing. So passwords that take thousands of years to compromise with automated software tools that are being used today, that are long and strong passwords you and I use, can be compromised in a second with quantum computing applied. That to me is scary as anything, because our entire world is based on insecure passwords that we all struggle with right now. What's going to happen when we enter the quantum era? It's going to be a long, tough ride, and it's going to change things from a security perspective as we know it.
I think we might be coming out of time. I'm hoping just through the act of talking to you, I'm not suddenly going to find myself targeted by a hit squad of cyber criminals. But
you never know.
Yeah, I know who I'll be calling if I need some help dealing with that situation. It's been really great to chat to you today, Scott. I really appreciate you coming on. And
likewise, thank you.
I like to just sort of end these shows really with a kind of final thought from you, which is, if you could just go back, to the start of your journey, taking over the business, running it as CEO, what advice would you give yourself that you now take for granted?
I think early on, and even to some extent till today even, I'm constantly told no. I have an idea, I have a thought, I have a product, I have something that can counter a serious vulnerability, a serious problem in the world of cybersecurity and security in general. And many people that, again, are far smarter than myself will say, nah, that's a dumb idea. That can't be done. I don't think so. Nobody will buy it, whatever the case may be. Don't take that at face value. Challenge it. Go do the research. I didn't do that early on. I took a lot of things at face value and believed in people when they'd say, nah, that ain't going to work. Some of our best products and best ideas were ones that I didn't give up on. Short story or anecdote. Terrible train crash, 2008. Chatsworth, California, 25 people died tragically. We got a phone call from a rail company out there in LA, asked to develop a little engine to do cell phone detection for distracted operator. We did it. We did trials, never fully implemented, 2 years of on and off, completely failed. I was told it's not going to work. I was ready to give up, and people were telling me, no. And I said, you know what? No, I don't agree with it. Let's perfect it. Let's improve it. Let's not give up. Let's keep going. Didn't sell a single unit or single solution. After those 2 years, we got a phone call from the largest locomotive manufacturer in the United States. They said, we heard you got this crazy idea. You're doing something to combat distracted operators. We want to talk to you. Conversation ensued, led to a 50-piece pilot. We've sold over 25,000 units on just about all the locomotives throughout the entire United States to combat distracted operator. When operators, trains look down and, phone their girlfriend, play games, whatever, miss their signals and end up crashing a train. It took off. And when I reflect back and what impact did it have, I don't fully know, but hopefully deep down, there's never another crash like that tragic 25 death. And in part, it's because of the innovation that we created. And it makes trains safer on the tracks, because these locomotives are pulling hundreds of cars, toxic chemicals and everything else, and they crash, and that could lead to hundreds of thousands of people in a city dying. It makes a difference, but you got to believe in your idea, your vision, execution of it, and never give up. Even when people say, nah, it's not going to work, or it's a dumb idea, don't focus on the money. Everybody focuses too much, I think, on making money. Focus on a solution. The money comes later if you have success. When you believe in an idea, and yeah, obviously those ingredients and marketing and sales and the price point and return on investment, so on and so forth, they will come eventually, but a good idea is only as good as you can develop all those ideas later on. You got to prove it works first and not give up on the idea and find that one adopter. All you need is one company, one person that believes in your idea, that it takes fruition and grows into something amazing. It doesn't stop. So I always tell people, believe in it. That's all. Just believe in your ideas.
Well, I think that's a much more optimistic note to end the podcast on. Scott, thank you so much for joining today. It's been great. And if people want to follow you, hear more from you, where should they find you?
Yeah, they could always jump on my website. Our company website is bvsystems.com. And I also have my own personal website, scottschober.com, with my books and speaking and tips and downloads. And we've done thousands of videos for education and all. So welcome anyone to check that out, and stay safe, everybody out there. Thank you for the opportunity. Brilliant conversation.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. Cult Products is brought to you by Yaya, helping cybersecurity companies define who they're for, what they do, and how they're different. To learn more, visit yaya.co. And don't forget to search for Cult Products in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Follow the show so you never miss an episode. On behalf of the team at Yaya, thanks for listening.